What if the life you worked so hard to build is quietly working against you? You wake up early, you commute, you answer emails, you hit deadlines, you push for promotions. On paper, you are progressing. Your resume looks stronger every year. Your income has increased. Your responsibilities have grown. So why does financial security still feel fragile? Why does one unexpected expense still have the power to throw your entire month into stress? Here's the truth most people never hear. The middle class rarely collapses because of one catastrophic mistake. It collapses because of dozens of completely normal decisions stacking on top of each other. Not reckless decisions, normal ones. And that's exactly what makes them dangerous. Today, we're breaking down the financial traps that look responsible, feel justified, and are socially reinforced, yet quietly erode wealth over decades. I've grouped them so you can see the patterns clearly, because once you see the pattern, you can break it. Let's begin. 1. The lifestyle expansion. Traps. These are the traps that grow with you. The more you earn, the more they scale. 1. The raise that disappears. You get a raise. It feels earned, validating, proof that your effort mattered. So naturally, your lifestyle adjusts. A better apartment, a newer car, higher quality groceries, more travel, fewer budget constraints. Nothing extreme, just upgrades that reflect your new level. But here's what quietly happens. Your expenses rise in proportion to your income. The surplus that could have built wealth gets absorbed before it ever has a chance to compound. 5 years later, you're earning significantly more, yet saving roughly the same percentage, sometimes less. Income alone does not create wealth. Savings rate does. Imagine you receive an extra $1,200 per month after a raise. If you invest that amount consistently at historical market averages for 25 to 30 years, it can grow into well over $1 million. That's not speculation. That's math plus time. But lifestyle inflation steals that future gradually, invisibly, and socially acceptably. The solution isn't deprivation, it's intentional allocation. When your income increases, automatically direct at least half of the raise toward investing before adjusting your lifestyle. Let your future benefit first, because if your lifestyle always expands to match your income, you'll look richer every year and remain just as financially fragile. 2. The status vehicle trap. Walk through almost any middle-class neighborhood and you'll see it. Driveways filled with expensive vehicles, financed over extended loan terms. Car payments have become normalized, almost expected. The monthly payment feels manageable. The salesperson structures it that way intentionally. Stretch the loan to 72 or even 84 months, and suddenly a very expensive vehicle looks affordable. But affordability is not measured by monthly payment. It's measured by long-term opportunity cost. A vehicle is a depreciating asset. From the moment you drive it off the lot, it begins losing value. Yet many households commit hundreds, sometimes over $1,000 per month towards something that steadily declines in worth. Now imagine investing that same monthly amount instead of sending it to a lender. Over 25 to 30 years, consistent investing of a typical car payment can compound into hundreds of thousands of dollars. The difference between always having a car payment and driving paid-off vehicles is not just convenience. It's potentially the difference between retiring comfortably and working far longer than you planned. Vehicles should solve transportation problems. They should not consume wealth-building capacity. 3. The bigger house illusion. Buying a home is often seen as a milestone of adulthood and success. Mortgage approval feels like validation. But approval means only one thing. Based on your financial profile, the bank believes you can service the debt without defaulting immediately. That is not the same as long-term comfort. When buyers stretch to the top of their approval range, they compress their margin, and margin is what creates resilience. The mortgage payment is just the beginning. Property taxes, insurance, maintenance, repairs, appliance replacements, landscaping, unexpected structural issues. Home ownership carries recurring costs that often average thousands per year beyond the mortgage itself. When housing consumes too high a percentage of income, every other category tightens. Savings slows, investing pauses, stress increases. Buying below your maximum approval amount is not playing small. It is building flexibility into your life. A home should increase stability, not anxiety. 2. The debt normalization traps. Debt has become culturally normalized. These traps thrive because everyone does it. 4. Minimum payments and maximum time credit cards are convenient. They provide rewards, flexibility, and consumer protection. But carrying a balance at high interest transforms convenience into long-term wealth erosion. The minimum payment printed on a statement is designed to extend repayment over the longest possible period while keeping the account active. Psychologically, it acts as a finish line. Pay the minimum, and your brain registers completion. But the balance continues accruing interest quietly in the background. A $10,000 balance at high interest, paid minimally, can take decades to eliminate, often resulting in repayment totals that double or triple the original spending. If you cannot pay the full balance this month, the purchase exceeded your current financial capacity. That realization alone can shift long-term financial outcomes dramatically. Credit cards are tools, but tools must be used deliberately. Otherwise, they become systems of slow extraction. 5. The perpetual car loan cycle. Beyond the initial purchase lies another hidden trap: negative equity. Many consumers trade in vehicles before loans are paid off. If the vehicle's value is less than the remaining balance, the difference gets rolled into the new loan. Debt compounds. Payments reset. Ownership remains elusive. The cycle continues. Long loan terms make this even more common. When financing stretches beyond 5 years, depreciation often outpaces repayment early on. The result is a rolling debt structure disguised as upgrading. True financial leverage comes from owning assets that appreciate, not perpetually refinancing depreciating ones. 6. Optimizing a credit score. Instead of net worth. A credit score measures how well you manage borrowed money. It does not measure wealth. It does not measure savings. It does not measure independence. Yet many people make financial decisions to optimize this number, keeping unnecessary accounts open, managing revolving balances strategically, even taking on small loans they don't need. Above a certain threshold, incremental improvements in credit score produce negligible financial benefit. But the habits built while chasing that number can maintain ongoing debt exposure. The goal is not an impressive score. The goal is freedom from dependence on borrowing. Debt management is not the same as wealth building. 3. The silent leaks. These are the expenses that feel insignificant individually, but compound over time. 7. Subscription accumulation streaming services, music platforms, cloud storage, premium shipping, fitness memberships, Software, app renewals, meal kits. Each charge appears small, under $20, easily justified. But collectively, subscriptions can reach hundreds per month. Over a year, that's thousands. Over decades, invested consistently, that becomes a substantial sum. Subscriptions remove friction. There's no repeated decision, no moment of reconsideration. But automation should work in your favor, building assets, not draining cash flow. Every recurring expense is a permanent claim on future income. Audit regularly, cancel aggressively. Retain only what truly adds value. 8. Convenience spending. Modern life offers endless convenience at a premium. Food delivery instead of cooking. Pre-cut groceries instead of preparation. Express shipping instead of waiting. Ride services instead of planning. Cleaning services instead of scheduling time. Convenience is not inherently wrong, but when exhaustion drives repeated convenient spending, it can quietly erode surplus income. Often, dual-income households experience this most intensely. With limited time, spending rises to compensate. The question becomes, are you using money to create strategic time or to patch systemic overwhelm? Intentional convenience can enhance life. Unexamined convenience can consume margin. 9. Impulse purchases and emotional spending. Human brains are wired for immediate reward. Shopping triggers dopamine, the same neurochemical associated with exercise and social connection. The emotional lift is real, but it is temporary. Small, unplanned purchases feel harmless in isolation. Yet when tracked over a year, they often total thousands. Invested instead, those funds compound dramatically over time. The key is awareness, not perfection. Delay purchases. Create a waiting period. Distinguish between emotional desire and functional need. Impulse is expensive. Intention builds wealth. 4. The structural fragility traps. These traps don't look dangerous until something goes wrong. 10. 2 incomes, no cushion. Dual-income households often build lifestyles that require both salaries at all times. Mortgage sized accordingly. Vehicles financed accordingly. Childcare mandatory. Fixed expenses elevated. If one income disappears due to job loss, illness, or caregiving responsibilities, the entire structure becomes unstable. Resilience comes from margin. If essential expenses can be covered by one income, the second income becomes a wealth-building accelerator instead of a survival requirement. Structure determines flexibility, and flexibility determines long-term stability. 11. No emergency fund. Without savings, every unexpected expense becomes high-interest debt. Car repairs, medical bills, home maintenance, travel emergencies. An emergency fund does not generate excitement. It does not produce visible growth, but it prevents small problems from becoming long-term financial damage. 3 to 6 months of essential expenses held in liquid savings creates psychological and financial stability. Preparedness reduces panic. Reduced panic improves decision-making. Improved decisions compound. 5. The time delay trap. Time is the most powerful variable in wealth creation. 12. Waiting to invest. I'll start next year. This delay feels harmless, but compounding is time-sensitive. Starting 10 years earlier with the same monthly contribution can result in dramatically different outcomes. The math is unforgiving. Intentions do not compound. Contributions do. Automating investments removes reliance on motivation. Consistency replaces discipline. Wealth building is less about brilliance and more about duration. The earlier you begin, the less you must contribute overall. Time does most of the heavy lifting, if you allow it to. The unifying pattern. Notice something about every trap we've discussed? None require recklessness. They require normalcy. Normal car payments, normal mortgage stretch, normal credit card balance, normal subscription stack, normal delay in investing, normal impulse spending, normal lifestyle expansion. Normal is common. Common is stressed. Financial independence rarely looks impressive in the early years. It looks restrained, measured, intentional, sometimes even boring. But decades later, it looks like options. The option to change careers, the option to work part-time, the option to help family, the option to retire without fear, the option to say no. Money is not about status. It is about flexibility. You don't need to fix everything immediately. Identify the trap that resonated most, the one that made you slightly uncomfortable. Start there, because wealth is not built in dramatic moments. It is built in quiet, repeated decisions that most people overlook. Refuse automatic normal. Choose intentional instead. If this helped you see your finances differently, subscribe. And let's build a future defined by choice, not pressure. 6. The identity trap. Let's go deeper, because money problems are rarely math problems. They're identity problems. Most people don't spend according to logic. They spend according to who they believe they are. If you see yourself as someone successful, you feel pressure to signal it. If you see yourself as someone generous, you overspend on others. If you see yourself as someone who works hard, you justify rewards constantly. Identity drives spending more than income. You don't buy the watch because you need to tell time. You buy it because it aligns with the version of you you want others to see. You don't upgrade apartments because the old ones stopped working. You upgrade because your self-image expanded. This is subtle, dangerous, and powerful. The solution isn't to reject success, it's to redefine it. What if success wasn't visible consumption, but invisible control? What if the most successful person in the room was the one who could walk away from their job tomorrow? That person doesn't need signaling. They have options. When your identity shifts from looking successful to being free, your financial decisions change automatically. 7. The busyness distraction. Here's another modern trap: busyness. High earners often justify poor financial optimization because they're too busy. Too busy to refinance. Too busy to renegotiate insurance. Too busy to compare rates. Too busy to audit expenses. Too busy to learn investing basics. But busyness is often a shield. We optimize what we prioritize. A single afternoon of focused financial review can produce returns higher than months of extra work hours. Example: renegotiating insurance premiums, adjusting asset allocation, eliminating unnecessary recurring expenses, switching high-interest debt to lower structures, increasing automated investments. These are high-leverage decisions, but they require stillness. And stillness is uncomfortable for people who equate motion with productivity. The irony? Many people work extremely hard to avoid doing the 1 hour of thinking that would reduce how hard they need to work. Activity is not progress. Financial clarity requires deliberate pauses. 8. The I deserve this loop. Let's talk about emotional compensation. You worked hard this week. You handled stress. You dealt with difficult clients. You showed up when tired. So you tell yourself, I deserve this. The dinner, the gadget, the spontaneous trip, the upgrade, and occasionally, that's fine. But when I deserve this becomes a recurring justification, you create a loop. Stress to spend to temporary relief to repeat. Spending becomes emotional regulation. And the more stressful your life becomes, the more expensive your coping mechanisms get. High-pressure careers often correlate with high discretionary spending for this reason. Here's a radical shift. Instead of asking, "Do I deserve this?" ask, "Will this reduce or increase future stress?" Many impulse upgrades increase fixed costs. Increased fixed costs increase pressure. Increased pressure creates more "I deserve this" spending. It's a cycle. Breaking it requires awareness, not restriction. Reward yourself in ways that don't permanently increase financial obligation. Because freedom feels better than fleeting dopamine. 9. The comfort creep. Every year, your baseline comfort level rises slightly. Better mattress, better phone, better car, better restaurants, better travel class, better neighborhood. None of these are wrong individually, but comfort is addictive, and once a higher standard becomes normal, reverting feels like loss, even if financially wise. This is called hedonic adaptation. What once felt luxurious becomes expected. What once felt sufficient becomes inadequate. And so spending escalates gradually, not dramatically. Here's the hidden cost. The higher your comfort baseline, the higher your minimum required income to feel okay. That increases dependence. Financial independence is partially about lowering the cost of contentment. If you can genuinely enjoy life at a modest baseline, you reduce the financial threshold required to sustain happiness. That is powerful. Because wealth is not only about accumulation, it's about reducing how much you need. X. The career. Golden handcuffs. High income can become a trap, especially when fixed expenses expand to match it. The higher your salary, the larger your house, the more expensive your car, the more private the schooling, the more complex the lifestyle. Suddenly, leaving that job feels impossible, not because you lack skill, but because you lack margin. This is the golden handcuff effect. You are well paid and trapped. Many professionals stay in roles they dislike for decades, not because they can't earn elsewhere, but because their cost structure requires that exact income level. The solution isn't earning less. It's preventing expenses from rising at the same rate as income. If your lifestyle requires only 60% of your income, you have flexibility. If it requires 95%, you have dependency. Dependency reduces negotiation power. Flexibility increases it. Money gives you leverage, but only if you don't immediately consume it. 11th, the social obligation. Drain, here's a subtle one. Weddings, group trips, gifts, birthday dinners, holiday expectations, social events, fundraisers, family obligations, individually reasonable, collectively expensive. Social belonging often requires spending, and many people fear appearing cheap more than they fear appearing financially unstable. But here's a powerful truth. Most people are too focused on their own finances to judge yours as harshly as you think. Learning to say, "That's not in my budget right now," is a financial superpower. You don't need to attend every event. You don't need to match every gift. You don't need to split every trip. Boundaries protect margin, and margin protects peace. 12. The information overload paralysis. There's more financial information available today than ever before. Podcasts, YouTube, articles, news, market updates, opinions, hot takes, and ironically, this abundance creates paralysis. People delay investing because they're waiting to understand everything. They delay starting because they're afraid of making a mistake. They wait for certainty, but certainty doesn't exist. Simplicity outperforms complexity for most individuals. Broad diversification, low costs, consistency, long-term horizon. That's it. Complex strategies are often solutions to emotional insecurity, not financial necessity. You don't need constant optimization. You need consistency. Perfectionism is expensive. Action is profitable. 13. The retirement fantasy gap. Ask people how much they think they'll need for retirement. The number is usually large. Now ask how much they've saved. The gap is often uncomfortable. But here's the real issue. Retirement is imagined as a distant concept, not an inevitable phase. Present bias causes people to overweight current pleasure and underweight future necessity. Future you feels abstract. Current you feels urgent. So future you gets postponed. But future you is not a stranger. Future you is the same consciousness, just with fewer working years left. One day, income from labor stops. Income from assets must replace it. If assets are insufficient, options shrink. Retirement planning isn't about luxury. It's about autonomy. The earlier you align with that reality, the less aggressive you need to be later. Time is for giving early, brutal late. 14. The "it will work out" assumption. Optimism is valuable. Blind optimism is dangerous. Many people assume, "I'll earn more later. I'll figure it out. It always works out." Sometimes it does. But financial systems reward preparation, not hope. Hope doesn't compound. Contributions do. Planning isn't pessimism. It's strategy. You can be optimistic and prepared simultaneously. In fact, the most confident people often have the most robust backup systems. They aren't relaxed because they're lucky. They're relaxed because they're structured. 15. The real definition of wealth. Let's redefine wealth properly. Wealth is not income. Wealth is not visible assets. Wealth is not lifestyle. Wealth is how long you can maintain your current lifestyle without working. That's it. If you stop working tomorrow, how many months or years can you sustain yourself? 3 months? 1 year? 10 years? Forever? That number determines your real power. Everything we've discussed, lifestyle inflation, debt cycles, impulse spending, lack of investing, reduces that number. Everything disciplined, saving, investing, margin, restraint, increases it. Wealth is stored optionality. Optionality creates freedom. Freedom reduces stress. Reduced stress improves decision-making, and better decisions compound. The final shift. Most people think financial freedom requires extraordinary intelligence or extreme sacrifice. It doesn't. It requires refusing automatic behavior. It requires saying, "Just because this is common doesn't mean it's optimal." It requires accepting that short-term social validation is often long-term financial compromise. It requires designing your life so that money becomes quieter over time, not louder. Imagine being 20 years older. Bills don't cause anxiety. Work is optional, not mandatory. Decisions aren't driven by paycheck timing. Emergencies are inconvenient, not devastating. That future version of you is built slowly, quietly, repeatedly, not through dramatic breakthroughs, but through consistent refusal to fall into normalized traps. You don't need perfection. You need direction. And direction is a choice you can make today. If this expanded your thinking, subscribe. Because understanding money deeply isn't about getting rich quickly. It's about becoming impossible to trap.